Hello, good afternoon. I am doing an unusual afternoon art stream because it's a snow day, and also I'm trying to find a good time to do these because Saturday evenings is not really working out because we're like always busy doing stuff. Which is an RPG source book we're publishing. So it's this like Illinois temple in the forest. And that's what I'm going to be working on today. I have it all penciled. Pencils have been approved. So now I'm going to go through and start inking it. I like to start with doing things with the tools. So I'm going to start by trying to get the shape of this shield with my French curve. Wait, really? Really? Nothing? Okay. Trying to get everything to cooperate when I'm just starting out here. All right. So anyway, I'm going to use my French curve. Try to get the shape of this shield. Can only do some of it at a time. Clean off the edge so I don't make a mess. Work on some of her armor as well that needs those nice clean geometric curves. I keep on wiping off my French curve in between each stroke so that I don't drag ink around on the page and make a mess. So I'm still working on getting my setup switched up over here. My studio recently moved. I had been working in the corner of my living room, or rather my living room moved and my studio is still in the same space, but I'm trying to get it spread out and set back up and haven't quite figured out how to do all of that yet. All right, so while I wait for this section to dry some before I go in and work on more of those curves, because I don't want to drag my French curve through the wet ink and make a huge mess, I'm just going to come over here, work on a different part of the illustration for a little bit. Just some of this stone of this temple up here. Oh, try to keep myself in frame. Oh, I just saw UPS outside. Oh man, packages. That's exciting. Although I feel bad. We have a snow day here. Everybody's home from school, and poor UPS is out there in the thick of it. Although one nice thing, now that I am able to spread out in my studio, is that now I can actually adjust my drafting table. So this is actually, my drafting table is actually like almost completely lying down. Oops, sorry. Almost completely lying down flat right now, which is really nice because that makes it a lot easier for when I'm using pens. And it also means that I get to be standing while I'm working on this. So it's kind of nice giving my back a break and being able to use this as a standing desk sometimes. So I'm not going too over the top as far as texturing these stones like I would on like something like Age of Night, which is all black and white, my webcomic. If it's all black and white, then I'd be adding a lot of texture to these. This is actually going to be a computer colored piece, so I don't want to go over the top with adding a bunch of texture because all of that is going to come in the coloring. Handful of like places where there's like changes in the planes of the rough hewn stones, that sort of thing. But not too much in the way of building textures here, because that'll all just it'll all just kind of turn into a muddy mess if you're going to be coloring it as well. So I've been working on a lot of these city builder illustrations. This project has been going on for quite some time now, but this is the last chapter. The last chapter head illustration I need to work on. And I think I just have to do, I have like the introduction illustration and then the like a thank you illustration for the backers, and then this is gonna finally be done. So exciting. I've been working on this for months. Done a ton of really great pieces for this that I'm pretty proud of. I've worked on a lot of them on the streams here. You can go back through and find any of the ones with City Builder in the description. And Skirmisher's been releasing them as we complete them on DriveThruRPG, which is put together, but they've gotten to see individual chapters as complete them, which is pretty cool. Oh, need more ink. Going around trying to keep this shrine from looking too wonky. Like, I want it to still look like it can actually stand up under its own weight, but I definitely want it to look kind of rough. I was thinking it kind of had like a Stonehenge type thing going on, where it's like, yeah, we just took rocks that were mostly squarish in the right shapes that we needed, and we piled them up to make this shrine. And then we also put a big scary manticore on top. If anybody has any questions or comments about anything that I'm doing, feel free to leave me a comment. I am periodically looking up to see if there are any comments, and I will answer questions when I see them. So I like to hang out and chat if anybody has anything they wanted to contribute. Try to make sure I actually stay in frame. That would also be good. Oops. Get some of these little details in there. All right. I'm going to take a break from that, come back down over here and do some more of this. Clean my nib off so it's not getting too gunky. Oh, come on. Come on. Don't be like that. Okay, so there's the top part of that curve. Being careful not to drag my wrist through any of this stuff that might be wet over here. And I can use my triangle for straight edge to get the shaft of her mace down. Okay, so now that's gonna let that little section dry a little bit more and move on back around to it in a little bit. Most of the places for City Builder have been really architecture heavy. I haven't gotten to do too many where I was able to freehand this much of the background. Because, you know, it's City Builder, so most of the places are like in the city. This I kind of envision as being in like a park area or right outside of a city. Out in the forest somewhere. I just kind of wanted to do something a bit different. Since so many of the locations had a very similar built-up kind of feel to them. Whoops, I'm out of frame. Sorry. Scoot back down. So we ended up doing this unusual orc temple. It's got kind of like a Stonehenge feel to it, and it's full of bones from different sacrifices. This is for religious places. Hang on, I gotta turn paper. Don't get seasick. I'll go ahead and get this tool here inked and then go back over to using tools again in the corner. All right, so back over here. Someone's trying to message me. Someone's trying to message me. I'm streaming. I can't answer the phone. / my Facebook browser. All right. Yeah, sorry. Hang on. I gotta flip this all around to get this to work so that you can actually see what I'm doing. Oh, need more ink. It's always a very fine line. You don't want to overload your pen when you're using these tools because that's a recipe for disaster. It's very likely to catch on the edge of the tool and then spill all over. But then if you don't put enough ink on, you're halfway through a curve and can't finish it because you ran out of ink. That's why a lot of people just use tech pens, but me, I like to make my life difficult. There we go. Okay. All right. Okay, so what do we have left to do over here? Just this side for this little shrine. Got, oops, some bones. It's like a vertebrae hanging out there, which you can just barely see. Get some more bones down here. All right. I'll probably do the shrubs. The shrubs and some of these other kinds of grasses I'll be doing in brush. The ones that are further back and the trees, though, they'll probably still be in nib, so I'm going to start doing some of that. I like to do nibs instead of brushes on the things that are further back in the background just because the line is only going to get so thick and it's not as dynamic as with a brush. So for the type of nib that I use. So that helps to keep those background elements pushed back. Whereas the figures I usually do with a brush so that their line work is a little more dynamic and it pops them forward a little bit more, as well as some things that are closer to the foreground. It's just another way to kind of help different elements of the illustration stand out. Depending on what you're going for. Scoot this over a little more. All right, so those grasses and that shrub are going to be in brush, I'm thinking. The tree, however, there's something on the page. The tree, however, I'm going to do the lines of the trunk and nib. Put this down to where you can see it. Because I really don't need it to pop forward that much. It's just to kind of frame the focal points in a little bit. Okay, back over here. Which way do I want to do this? I'll spin it all around again. Woo! I'm really trying to make one dizzy, sorry. Clean those edges of her helmet. I should have done this edge first. That's foolish of me. Oh well. Some instances you can't kind of, you can see I'm not holding it flat. I'm kind of propping it up with my thumb. You can get away with that sometimes. It's kind of risky. A risky maneuver, though. That could just as easily go really, really poorly. All right. And just to close these curves, I'm just going to freehand it. The thing with the French curve is that you're always just trying to get each section of the curve matched as well as you can to some part of the French curve tool. But to get the really, really tight points like that, sometimes you're not going to have a good shape to do that with. So I'll usually just freehand the last little bit of it in. Okay, I don't think I can avoid it too much longer. I have to start working on these cobblestones, which is a little bit tedious, but that's okay. It's gonna look cool when it's done. I forgot to turn the speakers off on my computer, so it's making loud, obnoxious bonging noises. These ones in front are going to get pretty bold lines to bring them forward. Lines are going to get less bold as we move further back. Get some leaf litter hanging out here on top of the stones. This little goblin is cleaning up. This is going to be the biggest time sink of anything that I have to ink in this illustration. But it's going to look real cool when it's done. That'd be a lot cooler looking than just like a dirt path or anything. Having all these stones laid kind of showcases the importance of the location. Right? Right? I'm going to keep telling myself that so I don't feel so bad about how tedious drawing and then inking and then coloring all these stones is going to be. Okay. I'm already starting to lighten up my line weight a little bit. Not quite as heavy as it was in the front. Not super light yet, but I'm not bearing down on my pen as much either. Watch out for that. Did almost just drag my hand through it. Thankfully, I don't think I dragged. I think I just touched it, and now I don't have a disaster yet, but I have to be careful about that. More cobbles. Getting there. Yeah, making progress. Slowly but surely. There's something kind of mesmerizing about doing this type of work. It's just like you kind of have to zone out. It becomes very meditative. All right, I'm starting to really lighten up on the line weights here. I'll push this part of the image back so it's not fighting for visual dominance with anything in the front here. Also just help enhance the illusion that it's further away, because things get lighter and details harder to see the farther away they are. So I'm going to make it a little bit lighter, not closing them up all the way to kind of have them appear a little bit less detailed, less solid. Just helps to keep that illusion of depth going. We'll do one here and work our way over. We're getting close. Getting close to having all the cobbles done. Almost there. Almost there on all the tiny little rocks. All right. I think that's it. I think that's all the cobbles. Excellent. That wasn't so bad. Did not take as much time as I was afraid it was going to. Okay, I think I have a couple little sections left over here where I need to use tools. Not a lot, though. Gotta do as part of her helmet. Let me get some. I'm not going to do every line of the sunburst design on her shield, but I do want to get a couple of the long ones. Just so they stay fairly true. There. Okay, what I still need done? I need to get this tree trunk back here, not drag my hand through any wet ink. There we go. This other tree trunk. This whoop, other part of a tree trunk. Ridge back here. I am almost done with the pen work on this. That's pretty exciting. I'll be able to start moving on to brush while you guys are still watching. That's pretty fun. Oh, maybe you are chatting with me. My YouTube just gave me a notification saying it's unable to connect to chat. So if you have been chatting with me, I have not been intentionally ignoring you. Apparently, YouTube is just messing up right now. So there's that happening. Like, I'm not going to reset the stream just because it's not working. I don't know why. I'm going to want to use a tool for this little bowl back here. We'll do the back curve. Also ink this creepy manticore statue. Which was kind of way too much fun to draw and is pretty fun to ink. Get all these little details. creepy feathers. Crazy lion's mane. Wow. Too much fun. Crazy teeth. He's got like fire in his mouth, which I thought was fun. I thought that was a fun little detail to add. Whoops. That is totally nowhere near the line I drew. Oh, goodness. That's all right. It's not really a big deal. Like, no one is going to see these pencils in the finished product. It doesn't interfere with anything else. It's just kind of a good job me moment. It's still a perfectly acceptable place for that line to be, just not the one I had intended. Okay. What do I have left for nib work? Just a little bit of stuff down here. Okay. Almost there. On the nib stuff. Finish that line on our helmet. And, oops. Get some more of these little rivets popped in. The edge there. Let's see, where are we on time? I've been doing this for 46 minutes, so I usually keep these streams to about an hour. So we should have time to start some brushwork. I won't quite finish the image, but I'll be awful close. Finish this sunburst pattern on the back of her shield. So in all of the City Builder illustrations, there's this player character party that's going around and experiencing these different locations. This is the party cleric. So the idea is you would recognize that would recognize her as the party cleric. And so it's like, oh yeah, she's gonna go visit somebody else's shrine for some reason. But yeah, the idea is just that you would recognize her from the other illustrations as being a character. All right, so I'm doing the nib on the outside of her sleeve because she's actually wearing a chainmail shirt under this tabard. So I do need to go in and put in a little bit of chainmail texture here. In this particular instance, I have no one to blame but myself because I designed these characters. Why did I do this to myself? Why did I give the cleric a chainmail shirt? At least it's mostly covered by that bird. It's really just her sleeves and sometimes like the lower edge of the shirt that you can see. But still, it still means I have to draw chainmail. All right, and I think I'm going to use nib to do this priest's necklace, and that'll be it. Question mark? I think that'll be it. That'll pretty much do it. For things I need to use my pen for. Or choose to use my pen for, as the case may be. Okay, so let's see, we've got about 10 minutes left. So I have time to do a little bit of brushwork with my lovely, oh there you are, with my lovely Winsor & Newton Series 7 Real Sable brush, number 4. Whoops, sorry, smacking my camera around. This is a brand new one. I usually keep a little piece of scrap crystal so that after I load the brush up, I can just make a couple of strokes and kind of pull it to a point, especially when I first start. It takes a few strokes to get it to have a nice point to it. Once I've been inking for a little while, I don't have to do that quite as much. But when I'm first starting off, the brush isn't knocked into shape yet. It's all floofy from sitting dry. I just bought this brush. Right at the new year. I love these brushes. They're my go-to inking brush. But India ink is very harsh on them, even if you do a really good job keeping them clean. So I usually, for the amount of work that I do, I usually get about a year out of each one before their performance starts to really noticeably dive. And if you get them online, they're around $30, $40 a piece. So that's really not too bad for getting that much use out of them. I mean, obviously it's a lot more than a cheap synthetic, but cheap synthetic isn't going to last you anywhere near as long. You're not going to get anywhere near the same amount of control. I mean, I know some people are fine using them, but I personally can't stand to use them. They make me nuts. All right, I think that's just going to be dark in there. Work on this happy orc face, this happy orc priest showing her around. Those teeth. There we go. Let's see. Part of what I really like about these, getting a larger brush like this, is that I can fill in big, fat lines. And I can still make little bitty lines like these. You can get a lot of control out of these. It's a happy orc face. All right, let's see. We have about 4 minutes left. So now I gotta tell you about all the things. I gotta do all the things. If you're enjoying watching me work, be sure to like the video and subscribe and hit the bell thingy so that it will tell you next time I do a live stream and you can watch as it's happening, which is fun. That's the standard YouTube thing. Also, so this project, again, what I'm working on right now is an illustration for City Builder, which is a publication from Skirmisher Publishing that it's coming out right now as a series of volumes that are a source book for your RPG, but they're also really great just for writing in general, because that's all about different places and things that you will find in cities, areas where there are lots of people. So it gives you a lot of ideas of how to build out your towns and cities. Gives you a lot of ideas for adventure hooks or just things to consider when you're putting them in your story. It's a pretty great resource for gamers, game masters, writers, game developers, pretty much anybody who's interested in creating this sort of content. It's been coming out in individual volumes. We're going to have the whole great big thing coming out pretty soon. We're getting pretty close to done. There's an older edition where the whole thing is available already, but we're working on an updated edition, which is what all these illustrations have been for. Also, you can find me and more of my work. I'm Amanda Call. You can find me on Twitter at Age of Night, on Instagram at Amanda Call Art. And you can check out my webcomic, Age of Night, at ageofnight.com. I also have a Patreon for that and for my comic work in general. I'm doing some other cool stuff with comics this year in addition to Age of Night, so that's worth checking out. Including on Patreon, I'll do more of these behind the scenes videos too, of me working on stuff, which is fun. And that's getting us pretty close to time. We're almost there. Finish this guy. And that will be it. So that'll be very nearly the whole illustration. Very nearly the whole thing inked. Tunic down there, his priestly robes. Big meaty orc hand there. All right, so going to pretty much do it for this session. So I went from this illustration having whatsoever to now I've got pretty much everything inked except for I've got 2 figures left to ink and a couple of little background shrubbery elements, but that's pretty much it. I'm very, very close to being done on this one. And then it'll move on to colors, and then before too long you'll see it published. Skirmisher. All right, so that will do it for this week. Thank you everyone who came and joined me and maybe commented. The comments are still broken for some reason. But anyway, hope to see you next time. Bye.